So, thank you again for the interview today, and congrats on your win. I'll be looking forward to you showing up in grand finals. But aside from that, I kind of like to use my interviews to kind of like catch everybody up to speed on like you as a player and your journey,
Yeah,
especially since you are moving up into the tier one scene, and that's not kind of questions you can ask in like a press conference.
yeah,
Um,
gotcha.
so yeah, we're just gonna kind of like start from the beginning and then just like scale up really quickly through time. It'll make sense as we go.
All right. Yeah.
Um, Cool. So just kind of first and foremost, kind of like what was your first experience with like competitive gaming overall?
My first experience. Um, I always played for fun. It wasn't very competitive. I'd say it was just more of a hobby that I did, and throughout the years, it kind of got more and more competitive from the prize, I guess, like the end goal,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what made me more competitive. But at the start, it was just a hobby.
Cool. Nice to hear. All right. And then you also like started out in like I'm gonna call it competitive gaming. Like I mean like like the tournament environment like really
Mhm.
early. Like when it was like Tier One Academy, it was like 2021. So like if
Yeah,
Wikipedia is correct, you were like 16 or 17 when you started with them, right?
yeah,
Um,
I believe so. I think I
yeah.
was 16.
So like you were still in high school at the time, right? So kind of
Yes.
like I guess what was your plan before discovering esports? Like if you lived a normal life and went like through high school and then if you did college and like a job, what would it have been? And like what did your parents think about you like changing course to pursue esports?
Um, Before esports, I was I think freshman decision to not go to school for college because I truly believe that school is always going to be there. But without that opportunity, I would have probably just went to college, probably played games for fun, but I wouldn't have played as serious as I did and go from there. I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do or like had a set path. I kind of just going with the flow, and esports was kind of just there for me.
Nice. That's cool to hear. And definitely go with the flow turned into insane commitment, right? You were in tier two kind of for 3 years. And I was curious kind of like what kept you like focused and motivated to keep competing, right? Without like seeing that kind of progression. Like what was your goal or vision for yourself that like kept you from moving on and being like, okay guys, I've spent a long enough here. Now I'm gonna go to college and move on.
Um, I think it's just a lot of like my drive and my passion, and I guess where I'm at. I think starting at like where I was at T1 CAD, it wasn't like I was still learning the game, so it wasn't very a big stepping stone. And then when I got to Soar, my next team, that's when
Mm-hmm.
it was like more of a stepping stone and seeing where I competed against everyone else. And I guess throughout the years, the teams I've joined were better and better players and people I respected. Where I felt like I wasn't really categorized as like a tier, but just as like I'm still going up in my career because of the players I'm playing with, and I'm still learning. And I think eventually it just went to tier one. Um, I forgot the rest of the question, to be honest.
I guess like yeah, I guess like what was your goal or vision at the time for yourself in esports, and then that can like if you want to start with that, and then you can finish out with the second next question that I can ask, which is like how has that vision or goal changed now that you have hit tier one? Like what goal have you set for yourself for your rookie year in VCT?
Yeah, I think my goal was always to compete and play like international and where the end goal is. Leading up to it, I think it was just playing and seeing how I matched up. I didn't really want to put any pressure on myself. Um, my expectations for this upcoming year, I just want to have a good showing, making sure I can do my best and play without regret. Um, that's all I really care about. I don't really care about like I guess fame or attention or anything. I just want to like do what's best for me and for my team.
Cool. And I have kind of one more question about the past before we move more into the present and the future. So again, I talked about how like I've had the honor of casting some events for you, kind of in that tier 2.5 space, like Mystic Singularity series, and now more recently Fun Haver events. But those kind of tournament organizers kind of struggle to stay afloat and have since kind of dismissed. Like you look through your listings, like none of those orgs exist anymore. So kind of just again like for incentivizing that scene, like how has competing in those kind of events been important to you and allowed you to develop into a player that like the player that you are today, being able to compete in tier one.
Yeah. I think those tournament organizers and like that tier, it really gives you like a name. It gives you like a lot of reps on who you are as a player, and gives you like the confidence for you to move up. Um, a lot of it is just playing and just waiting for your time, and it kind of sucks now. I feel like it's harder to go pro, but it is
Mm-hmm.
still like the best way because in NA there's so many tournaments and so many like things that you can do to get your name out there, and just playing these tournaments are is one of them, for example.
Nice. And all right, so now we're going to talk about your current squad competing now with Cloud9 for this season. So starting off with the off season, I actually got to go to Red Bull home ground, so I got to see you guys compete there. And C9 has like a pretty rigorous off season, something they've kind of become known for. How do you think this has helped you prepare for your first year in VCT versus maybe other orgs that pull these rookies who don't get that chance to compete before the season begins?
Um, I think a lot of it is just playing for the first time together and just like getting those like first jitters out, like first team jitters that you play together with. Um, I think for us, we've played so many like events with each other and like just individually like this tournament where we can get comfortable on the stage with which other teams might not have, and you kind of experience the highs and lows, and you kind of like gain motivation for the season, if that makes sense. Because I think during the off season it is just like for fun, and learning about your team, learning about yourself, but then when it really does like show where you are and what you want to do the upcoming season.
Nice. And diving into that a little bit more. Like aside from obviously there was an IG on the roster change, how do you think the roster has grown during the offseason with that consistent practice in these events? Like what has been like the biggest I think milestone you guys crossed as a squad? And what do you think is now on the other side of that going to be like the biggest growing pain or challenge when you actually get into the meat of the season?
Um, I think the biggest thing that we learned as a team during the all season was just like how we wanted to play and what player comfortability is. I think we all talked as a team as like what we want and what we don't want, like the culture, the play style, the stuff, like everything in and outside of the game. I think we're in a good spot there. I think a lot of it is just reps now and just talking about it, improving on what we talked about, and just moving forward like collectively.
Nice. And you brought it up, right? The play style, the mental, the culture for the team. And I'm not going to dive too much into the Rossi Mitch situation, but I did get to watch that interview, and they said that was like a really important thing to Cloud9 and moving forward with Mitch over Rossi. So,
Mhm.
just from your perspective, obviously we know it was a team decision. Like, what do you think Mitch, again, looking forward to this season, brought to the squad or is going to bring to the squad that's going to allow you to have a successful season and completed kind of the picture of Cloud9 for 2024 or 2025, I should say?
I think just him being in NA and kind of experiencing NA culture and scrimming. I know he's in tier two just like me last season, but he's scrimmed against all the best teams. He's played against some of the best teams in the off seasons too, like in NA. I think the vision of NA and like how a lot of us want to play is that play style. Um, not to get with the Rossi stuff, but it's just like
Mm-hmm.
um, the play style that we want is more in favor of Mitch,
Mm-hmm.
and that's kind of where we went forward towards.
Cool. Nice. All right. Next question is a little bit more of a fun one. So player archetypes in VCT are kind of like a common and fun kind of thing to discuss. And you talked about how like you guys were finding your roles, both probably like in terms of the agents, but also just in the team. So like Vibe Merchant, The Rock, the Dad, etc. Where do you think your role in the team has kind of fallen in this squad so far?
Uh, I'm not sure. I'm not very like. I feel like I'm very middle ground. I think if anything, I'm just a background character. In my
No, no. What do
I'm
you
just
mean?
there, and it depends on the environment. If someone is like if Oxy is getting super hyper, getting excited, I think like I'll join in the fun. But a lot of it is I feed off other people's energy.
Okay, nice. And have you done your Valorant flashback yet?
Yes, I have.
What was your little card like your personality in Valorant for that?
I'm not. I don't remember the name exactly, but I'm like the Omen. I
Okay.
remember that was
Was that
the
like I think that
picture.
was like the demon or like the killer or like
Yeah,
something
yeah,
like
the
that.
demon.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay, okay.
yeah, yeah. That was
I
it.
see, I see. Do you remember your pro player?
I don't. I don't. I
Nah,
don't.
I don't yeah, I don't even remember either. But cool. All right, and then that brings us to our last question. We have a little bit of like a minute left. So, and this focuses on the Spotlight series specifically.
Mhm.
I've talked with a lot of the Game Changers players, and they all talked about how Spotlight series has been a great learning experience for them in one way or another, like playing with tier one players and just trying to like take in and observe everything they can. What do you think
Yeah.
you've learned or developed like in a new skill or about yourself and as a player by working with players from outside your scene and your space that you're going to bring forward into the main season?
I think the meta, I guess. I think every category of like Valorant has their own meta, whether it's region, the tier, game changers, whatever. They all have their own different like play style or vision. And I think playing with Sarah and Alexis, they are very level headed and they do have their own ideas. And it might be different from mine, but they're not like there's no right or wrong answer. And I think it's very nice seeing like how they approach the game, and it does open your eyes. And playing against some of these game changer teams, they do have like a different style compared to because it is like international in a way with MIBR.
Mm-hmm.
They are like a different region and they do play a different way. And I'm not very used to that play style in particular in NA. I feel like it's a lot more slower and just playing dumb. It was a lot more fast paced. So I think like overall, like there's just things to learn and improve on as a player, and you can just take that in while playing against and with.
Well, you definitely improved, right? From the best of one to the best of three, beating them this time around. So congrats again. Thank you again for taking the time to interview, and we can conclude there to respect your time and your rest before grand finals tomorrow. So I wish you the best of luck.
Thank you.
Name is Sierra or Zobi. I'm a freelance esports commentator in the space, and I've recently been starting to do interview content as well, just to practice my skills and get to know the players and the scene. I think most of my questions, which I don't think this will last the full 10 minutes, we'll find out, is more about just how your off season's been and the transition back to joining the C9 roster after participating in challengers the last season. Um, so we can jump right into it. So it's obvious you had like quite the roller coaster of a ride of an off season, right? Like obviously last season
Did you lag out?
VCL. Well, I'm lagging.
Oh, yeah,
Oh,
you lagged out for a second. You froze.
oh, you are
If
also
you could repeat like
pixely.
the
Yeah, I'll repeat it. Give me a sec. Let me
okay.
make sure it's back. Okay, I think we're back now. I'm on hotel
Yep.
Wi-Fi. Apologies. I'm traveling.
Oh,
This
no
weekend.
problem.
Okay, cool. We're all back. All right. So you had quite the roller coaster of a career, and just last off season as well, transitioning from Oxygen, the stand-in for C9, and then the SOAR like Cubert Academy kind of thing, and now you settled back home with C9, obviously for this upcoming VCT season. So what was that process like, just jumping around, playing with different rosters and players, and how has the remainder of the offseason been, considering you didn't get that time to play in a lot of these official offseason events with Cloud9 like Red Bull Homeground in Berlin?
Yeah. I mean, first off, going back to last year, Oxygen, kind of a, like a sad way to end things, I
Yeah.
guess, without making it to even Ascension Land. So that was kind of sad. And then going into the off season with Oxygen, not supporting us anymore, it was kind of like, yeah, what am I gonna do? After like a month or two, me, Redux, Scuba were like, hey, you guys want to, stick together and maybe make a challengers team because none of us, well, obviously Redux is with Sentinels, but me and Scuba didn't get any offers, and Dapper wasn't playing the game anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So we kind of just stuck around and we started, playing with different people. I mean, the roster that could have been would have been insane. Like we we had me, Scuba, Redux, Crashies, and Victor at one point.
Wow.
That could have been a great roster going into challengers, but obviously, other plans happened. So it was, I mean, it was great playing with everybody and just trying a bunch of different things in the off season, and landing on C9 obviously is like, another dream come true. Like coming back to tier one, I guess, in a sense, and playing in my first VCT America season. It's awesome and it feels great to be a part of it.
Yeah, and my next question actually goes along with that idea of returning back to kind of tier one and franchising. It's kind of become like a trend for a lot of previously franchised players similar to you, having to go back to compete in the challengers, right? Like you talked about Dapper, Screwface, Stellar, BCJ, now even maybe Moose. How does it feel to like get that second chance to come back up and prove yourself in the tier one space?
Yeah, I mean, when you go down, it's kind of like the feeling of dread where, you don't know if you'll ever be back. So, obviously, like I want to make the most out of my opportunity coming back and doing everything I can to basically push the team forward to winning. So, it's it's gonna suck for a couple months going back down to challengers, but like once you get back on the grind, like it feels normal, and you're still playing against the same competition every day. You're still scrimming franchise teams. You're still scrimming, challenger teams. Either way, so um, I don't know if I answered all of that question.
Yeah, that was great. And kind of in a similar vein, I guess, like, obviously you were with Cloud9 before, you're with Cloud9 again. Obviously you said this will be like a little bit different since it's like now officially franchised and like the VCT America's space has developed. How does it feel different this time around considering it's still with the same organization?
Yeah, so I mean, I still was living here last time, so it's not too much different. The only different thing is going into the studio, I guess, because it was COVID and there was
Mm.
everything was online. So it definitely feels a lot more professional, and it feels like, like kind of like an actual job. You go into a studio and you play and, you entertain and whatever instead of just playing online. So there's that factor. But everything with Cloud9, honestly, has stayed the same. They're still a great organization, and I'm proud to be a part of it.
Cool. And now, speaking of your part in the team, obviously everyone was kind of shocked with the change back to you being the IGL. But everyone was saying right on the team that you felt like a better fit for how they wanted to play the game and such. So even if you maybe don't know too much about Rossi, like how did you feel like your IGL and calling style may have differed from his in a way that was maybe better fit? Do you feel like for the team?
Um, I mean, I'm not too sure exactly the details for that, for how he called and, like what um he was doing on the team, but for my style, it's more like structured and a little bit more consistency, like always, playing the same type of way, keeping everybody accountable, holding, like having everyone, disciplined if they make a mistake, and just having like a game plan, I guess. It's a lot more consistent. I guess that's why they wanted to go with me.
You got a real Oxy in.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool. And then one of my last questions is just looking forward to your first match of this season. Obviously, it's going to be up against NRG, which is looking pretty strong as well. But I wanted to focus on the fact that you're going up against Verno, right? You were just on the same team as them. You're talking about like the previous Oxygen roster. So how does it feel, coming back to franchise and getting to face off against them in their first franchised match?
Yeah, it's exciting, honestly. I mean, you're the first person to ask about it, but
Oh.
yeah, like playing against Verno and Bonkar is gonna be a lot of fun. I think it's gonna be a lot of mind games because I know a lot of their tendencies. They know a lot of my tendencies. So I think it's definitely gonna be a good battle. I know Verno is a very good player. Like he can just pull rounds out of the hat. So it's gonna be a lot of fun to play.
And are you kind of in that vein, are you excited as well for kind of like the IGL head to head, with like the experience differences as well?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I played with FNS and
Mhm.
CS, so I know a little bit about him and how he calls to an extent, but I think it's gonna be a lot of fun. I'm excited for the match. I honestly just want to start playing now.
Well, we only got like a week to go, so
Yep.
yeah, that is all I have for the interview. Thank you again for taking the time during media days to sit down and answer some questions,
Yeah,
and
no
good luck.
problem. Thank you very much.
Of course, bye bye.
Yep. Bye.